Mihara, my beloved. Overload Mihara is the newest Burst 3 DPS, and in this video, I'm going to explain her kit, recommend whether or not you should pull, and finally, go over how you should build her and her best team comps. Her skill 1 is very long-winded, and may be a bit difficult to understand at a first glance, but is actually very simple. When she enters the battle, she gains 10 stacks of restraint chains. The exact same thing happens whenever she casts her burst skill. During specific timing, all stacks of restraint chains that she has drain into random enemy units, dealing a large amount of damage, as well as stacking the ensnaring chain effect on them for each time this is done. This causes a damage over time effect up to a max of 20. The specific timing here is whenever an enemy spawns on the stage, when burst stage 3 is entered, or when full burst ends. This means that her main source of damage and center for kit will stack entirely onto a random rapture on normal stages, meaning that this character is just about unusable for standard campaign stages in tower, however is excellent at bossing. Her skill 2 is focused around the damage over time and snaring chains from earlier. For every 40 attacks she lands on an enemy during full burst, that enemy gains a stack of these ensnaring chains. Next, whenever she dies, she puts 20 stacks of ensnaring chains on all enemies that have any stacks already. This effect isn't really useful in PvE content, makes for very funny PvP team comps, where she's killed, causing lots of damage, and then is revived by Rapunzel. Whenever an enemy is killed, if it has ensnaring chains, then Mihara gains a stack of the restraint chains. This is meant to give her some usability in normal wave stages, however isn't enough to justify running her in those stages. Although, it does help her in the Indivilia anomaly interception, which is weak to her element, because during that boss fight, there are regular enemies that spawn. Finally, when she enters burst 3, her sustained damage is buffed. Sustained damage just being the damage that is done by ensnaring chains and her burst skill. Speaking of, her burst skill causes her to do more sustained damage to all enemies that have ensnaring chains on them, and mirrors the stat count of ensnaring chains on all enemies, meaning that she doubles the amount of ensnaring chains on all enemies for the 10 seconds this is active. And finally, it removes ensnaring chains from all enemies after it triggers. You should absolutely pull one copy of Mihara, as she's a top tier bossing Nikke, and a best in slot DPS for the Indivilia anomaly interception. She sucks in any content that isn't bossing, so I wouldn't recommend going for more copies, especially since we have Stellar Blade collab in summer events coming up soon, which have limited characters that will not be in standard banner. Her skill 1 should be brought to level 10, as that's the core of her kit. Her skill 2 and burst skill can be taken to level 7. If you're on a tight budget, or your early game, take her skill 1 to level 7, and her skill 2 and burst skills to level 4. For cubes, I recommend Wingman or Bastion, whichever is higher level, just to increase the time between her having to reload, increasing her DPS. For overload gear skills, element damage is very high priority, as her main purpose is anomaly interception and raid bosses, where element damage is really important. As with every machine gun unit, max ammo up is also very important, and on equal level priority as attack damage up. Finally, crit rate and crit damage are always fine, though lower priority than other stats is just something that you don't need to reroll. Just about everything else is worth rerolling and either doesn't help at all or barely does. If you use her in a general bossing team for boss stages in the campaign or the tower, her best team is Maid Mast, Maid Anchor, Siren, Mihara, and a burst 3 DPS of your choice. You can replace the maids with Crown in either Treasure Home or Naga if you wish, but the maids do have a higher attack buffing potential in boss battles. For element weak teams, such as an Anomaly Interception, I would once again run either the maids or Crown and Off-Burst Healer, alongside Rappy Red Hood, Mihara, and a fire DPS of your choice, such as Alice, Modernia, or Treasure Drake. Mihara is an absolutely amazing bossing unit, but unfortunately isn't usable in non-boss campaign and tower stages. If this guide helped you, feel free to subscribe. I release new Nikke guides weekly, and I'll be releasing a Treasure Helm guide next week. If you have any feedback for me, please let me know in the comments. Goodbye, and have a wonderful day.